half a cup of oats.
Yeah.
For lunch, I was supposed to eat 6 ounces of orange roughy, which before I met him, I didn't even know what orange roughy was. The reason that you're supposed to eat that type of fish, quote unquote, was because it wasn't a bottom dweller. Just like all stuff that is rather irrelevant when it comes to dieting for a bodybuilding show.
Yeah.
And so what I like to highlight there is my experience as a bodybuilder is most people's experience with weight loss and health and wellness and even healthcare.
Sure.
You know, our doctors are diagnosing us as pre-diabetics or diabetics and giving us a book and saying, eat more vegetables. You should be sitting down with somebody learning what that means for you and how your work, your life, your relationships influence how you should eat. If you're somebody who, you know, wants to be vegan or vegetarian for ethical purposes because of humane animal treatment, and that's just a goal of yours, you should be able to get a diet that meets those needs. If you're somebody who wants to include protein in their diet, there's a way to do that that meets your needs. And those conversations aren't being had. We're buying into Weight Watchers and keto diets and all these different things because it's just pushed at us, and it's here's your sample template, insert now.
Yeah.
It's got to be specific to you. And I learned that the hard way with my competing. It was night and day difference.
Okay. So, I mean, we have a bunch of professionals, right? Whether entrepreneurs or, you know, corporate professionals, et cetera, that, you know, who, you know, at least at their regular listens of the pod know now that after our episode with Dr. Jeff Williamson, that they have time, right?
Yep.
So we've removed the time excuse, you know, from them. So we know that we have at least 400 hours, which means that, you know, they could probably move towards their dream body, whatever that is, and, you know, being healthy and, you know, those kind of things. You know, talk to us a little bit, because you mentioned how regimented you are. You know, how do you fit in, you know, working out, you know, the food that you eat, you know, even sleep, right? You and I have had conversations about the importance of sleep. And I know it's come up a couple times on the pod earlier. You know, how much do you sleep?
Right. So first, Dr. Williamson's podcast with you was phenomenal. I love the concept of taking a, you know, thorough analysis of how we spend our time and going, oh my gosh, yeah, this is a fixed mindset. I didn't realize that I had all this time. Clearly I can do these things. But I also extend an overwhelming amount of gratitude and grace towards people, because from a health standpoint, when we think about our time, even with that time, the amount of health education that's out there causes paralysis. You know, there was a food market study that was done, and if you had 3 peanut butters, people would try one and buy it. But if you had 11 peanut butters, people would try it and not buy it because there was option paralysis, too many options. When we think about our health and well-being, there are too many options. So even when you have that free time, you don't know where to begin. You don't know how to start. And as professionals and entrepreneurs, I love that we are all hyper aware of our environment shapes our success.
Sure.
We know that when we're building a company and we're trying to set the culture and establish contracts, your environment determines your ability to grow and scale.
Sure.
It is no different with your health. And the most important thing is sleep, hands down. And that's not talked about. And why isn't it talked about? Because America runs on Dunkin'. Go get your caffeine. You can sleep when you're dead. Grind culture, baby. Go, go, go. No. Your environment starts with a good night's sleep. And that conversation simply isn't happening. Sleep is king. It's more important than your exercise. It's more important than your nutrition. Everything is important. Sleep's not going to fix the other two if they're not taking place. But from the likelihood of you waking up and having the energy and the willpower and the decision-making ability to say, I'm going to eat better or I'm going to exercise, it starts with sleep. And most of us aren't having that environmental component taken care of. And then we beat up on ourselves for not doing the other two.
Wow.
Or you're waking up at 80% charged, 70% charged, and you're trying to start a new behavior, like not going through McDonald's for your breakfast.
Yeah.
You're starting off on the wrong foot. Your environment's already screwed up.
How much should people sleep?
That is a great question. That is a great question. So the minimum, the bare minimum, and one of my favorite books of all time, I've read it like 3 times. It is a long listen, is Why We Sleep by Dr. Matthew Walker.
Okay.
I'm such a nerd when it comes to it, but honestly, it'll change your life because it's addressing every stigma and every incorrect perception that we have on sleep because we have so many of them. It talks about caffeine. If you consume caffeine within 6 hours of bedtime, it affects your sleep quality. You're going to get less deep sleep. Wow. So now we have a conundrum, right? So you're already tired, so you're consuming caffeine late in the day, so it's affecting your quality of sleep, so you're waking up less rested, so you're consuming caffeine late into the day, so you're waking up less well rested. And meanwhile, people are looking at caffeine as the solution. People who are condensing their sleep to wake up and go to the gym. All of our new year, new me people come in here in a couple of weeks. How many of them already get crappy sleep because they work rotating shifts or they're trying to start a new business or they got to get their child off to daycare. So the only time they can do it, going back to the time concept, is that 30 minutes of sleep. So they're waking up 30 minutes earlier. If you get fewer than 6 hours of sleep, so if you're waking up to exercise, this is taking place, instead of burning something like 80% fat and 20% lean muscle, if you don't have the glucose stores and everything else you're supposed to have, which is essentially what happens when you work out in the morning because you're probably fasted, you're going to instead burn something closer to 50% fat and 50% lean muscle. So your body is turning to your muscle to fuel those fasted, sleep-deprived workouts. You're better off getting that sleep.
Yeah.
Sounds going like for a walk for lunch than trying to get up and go to the gym. So providing that education for people, and then the risk of disease. When you're getting fewer than 6 hours of sleep, your body processes glucose like you're a pre-diabetic the following day. Most times it affects your short-term memory. So I always tell parents, especially, yes, during that initial year, 6 months to a year, your sleep's going to be chaotic. But then after that, once that young one's sleeping through the night, maybe you haven't got back to that routine sleep schedule, it is important that you do so, because if you don't get at least 6 hours, you're probably not converting your short-term memory to long-term memory. You're not going to remember your baby's days. And so what I do there is I hit people in the feels. That's a big one. I learned this, and I'd like to share this. I learned this with my very first client at Slippery Rock. And I can't put value to this relationship because it could have easily not happened, and I'm so thankful that it did. So here I was, 20 years old, and I just learned how to do push-up tests and aerobic capacity tests. And, you have 20-year-old guy in college, like, how much can you bench? How much can you deadlift? Let's go. And I've got this guy sitting across from me who's in his mid-70s. He had served overseas. He had back and joint pain. And I'm thinking, I'm going to get this man to do push-ups and bench press. We're going to get strong. That's why I'm here. And thankfully, I asked him, first question we were trained to ask, without really realizing the implications was, what do you want to get from this, right? So not asserting my beliefs or what I thought I wanted for him or what he might want, but just asking, what do you want to get from this experience? And to this day, I get goosebumps when I share this. He said, I want to be able to play with my grandkids without my back locking up or getting out of breath. I want to maintain my health so I can see them grow up.
That's a great thing. Yeah.
Are you kidding me? That's why people make any kind of change in their life. That's why you focus on sleep. That's why you drink more water and go to your annual wellness visit and meet with a dietitian, meet with the mental health therapist. That's why you break outside of the stigmas that exist, because you're not going to let societal pressures determine your ability to see your grandkids or spend time with your loved ones. Nothing keeps you from that. Nothing will keep you from that, And I think that that's just a totally unique way of thinking. We're not thinking that way. And we need to get back to what drives people and care enough to listen to them.
That's great, man. I mean, definitely, it reminds me, I guess, of, things like Simon Sinek, start with why, and, all of those things, when it comes to, what can drive people to, do amazing things, unpacking, for a little bit, because we don't have a ton of time together today. We always say we need more time. So, as you think about just kind of breaking down, a goal, especially like something that's, physical, right? And so this is one of the first times we really, had somebody on that we could talk to about, physical health. We have a lot of leaders on and talking about a bunch of different things, but, as folks think about, just let's say just taking a step, right? Taking their first step towards, doing a little bit better physically. What are some, just some tips, quote unquote, that they could start tomorrow, right? And maybe let's even say start tonight, since sleep is so foundational. What are some things that literally our listeners can go and like just start tomorrow? Just one step, 2 steps, that they could just start literally tomorrow.
Yeah, I love this question. I'm going to give you a list of my favorites. The first thing that I encourage everybody to do to frame how they're going to pick their goals, right? Because like even before you start a goal, you got to determine what goals you're going to do.
Yeah, sure.
There's so many. Never start with your largest crutch, the things that you're most emotionally and empathetically, enrolled in. Like for some people, that's smoking. Smoking is what you do on your worst days. And yes, society is telling you got to quit smoking, but you've got a slew of other unhealthy behaviors, things that you could do to promote your health. Start there because you're less emotionally and less physically ingrained with them. And some people might have a unique perspective on that, but what we're trying to do here is set people up for success. And ultimately, as you help people with the easier things, quote unquote easier, because easier is perception, they're going to have a better foundation that would increase the likelihood that once they're ready to quit smoking or quit drinking or start going to a gym instead of walking at home or addressing sleep, addressing food, that they're more likely to succeed. When you start with the biggest thing and then somebody fails, they're not coming back to you as a clinician or a personal trainer. And they've now experienced loss, and we are loss aversive creatures. So we got to help people understand that, yes, ultimately, we do want you to get it down to drinking 1 to 2 nights a week instead of every night. And we do want you to get consistently 7 hours of sleep, but we can start off at making sure we just get 6 or quitting the smoking. But right now, what we're really going to start with is every morning when you wake up and your feet hit the floor, you're going to have 8 ounces of water on your bedside, and you're going to toss that water back to start your day. Why? Because it's free, it's convenient, you should do it every day, and drinking water first thing in the morning is going to help you have a healthy bowel movement. It's going to help with inflammation. It's going to help with pain management. It's going to help with energy. It's going to help you start your day.
That's all for today, folks. See you next time.